Salwete, and welcome to this video on the first declension. Now, before we talk about what the first declension is, let me tell you a little bit about what declensions are. So imagine you had a lot of something, maybe socks in your sock drawer, or discs, shoes, phone numbers, emails, whatever. When you have a lot of something, you need to have an efficient way for it to be learned, organized, memorized, whatever. And this is what the declensions help us do. Declensions are a way of classifying nouns, and later we'll talk about adjectives and pronouns too, based on their endings. They are a set of patterns which show us a noun and all of its possible endings. And again, we'll talk about adjectives and pronouns later. And it's very important to learn the declensions, to learn the patterns of the nouns, because they're going to help us easily understand what it is that we're reading. So the way it might work, and this is a very, very simple example, is we have all these words here that don't appear to be related in any way. And what we can do with declensions is separate them into these nice categories. And we usually just go by the endings. Now, this is a very simplistic example, and this is not exactly how they're organized, but I'm just trying to give you a visual idea of what happens with the words. So let's take a look at the first declension for the rest of this video. Remember, there are 5. The first thing we're going to do is list the cases. The cases are in a separate video. And you can see nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, ablative, and then you see them again at the bottom. The top is for the singular, the bottom is for the plural. What I'm not showing you here is the vocative. I'll get to that in a different video. So we start with the word puella, which means girl, and you can see that there are no endings here. The endings are going to come in just a moment. This part is called the base. The base does not change. These are useless as you see them now. What we need are the endings. And we snap those on. And now we have complete usable words. And we know it's the first declension because of that genitive singular ending. When we see AE in the genitive singular, it must be first declension and it cannot ever be anything else. Now let's look at what these mean, and we have to know the cases. The first one is just the girl or a girl, or just girl. The second one would be of the girl or of a girl, or the girls with an apostrophe S. The dative, which you remember is the case of the indirect object, is usually translated as to the girl, puellai, to the girl. In the accusative, singular, we have an M at the end, and that M tells us that it's accusative. Okay, it's a good sign to look for. And this is also the girl or a girl, but only when girl is the object of the verb. So she's not doing anything, but you might say, video puellam, I see the girl. Then we go to the ablative, and the ablative, singular, is easy to identify because it has that macron over the A. Okay, so that's a very important thing to look for. Then we go down to the bottom. Puellai is the girls or girls. Puellarum is of the girls. Puellis is to the girls. Puellas, the girls, and puellis again could be by, for, or with the girls, depending on how they're being used in the sentences. And as I've mentioned in class, we're not really concerned right now with the macrons. Certainly when we do our homework, we should write them. But for the ablative singular in the first declension, we have to have it. So those yellow endings, those are the first declension endings. Okay, now we're going to work with the word femina. Now you can see it just says fem here, femin. This is the base. And here come the endings. A, I, am, I, arumi, sasis. Okay, and that lets us complete the words. We know this is a first declension word because there's an AE there in the genitive singular. And if you want to pause and get a look at what these mean and how they're translated, you can do that. Remember, in Latin, there are no articles. There's no a and there's no the. So you have some freedom there when you translate. Okay, and now we'll take the word Silwa. We've got our base, sil, and here come the endings. They snap right on. Okay, we know it's a first declension noun because of the genitive singular ending. In all 5 declensions, that's what we're going to look for. Okay, and here's a look at how you can translate these. Okay, nota bene, take good note of this. First declension nouns are almost always feminine. There are a few masculine nouns like poeta, the poet, nauta, the sailor, agricola, the farmer. They look like feminine words, but we say they're masculine because they refer to things that are normally associated with men. Most poets were men, as were farmers and sailors. You will almost always see a and I in the first cases, in the nominative singular and the genitive singular. You'll always see the I, the AE. The dictionary will always give you the first 2 cases. If it doesn't give you the second one, it's not a very good dictionary. Okay, and this is a little repetitive, but if you see I in the second position, the genitive singular, you will know it is a first declension noun. So patria, patriae. Patria is the fatherland, okay, the homeland, the country, and that patriae, those yellow letters, the I, they help you identify the declension. The long A will always appear in the ablative singular, and the M will appear in the accusative singular. Okay, discipuli et discipuli, that's it for today. Assumo, walete.